Hi, my name is Kerry Critchlow from RCR Recording Studios, and today we're going to be talking about additive synthesis. I am by no means an expert on additive synthesis, but I'm going to do my best to break down the bare bone basics so that you can have like at least a general understanding of how it works. But suffice to say, there's lots of math, and there are very many smart people that brought this concept together. There's lots of math involved, and I'm not a math whiz, but I'm going to do my best to explain the basic concepts and give you maybe just a brief example of how it could work. So what we're going to do is we're going to start, well, let's start with the definition. So additive synthesis builds a sound by combining sine waves with different frequencies and amplitudes. So if you've been following along the series so far, you should have an understanding of what a sine wave is. And we're going to go ahead and bring up a synthesizer here. And we are going to generate a sine wave. All right. Looks like this. Very smooth. All right. And we'll just have that play for a couple of bars here. All right. And so this is just a simple sine wave. It's a tone. We'll turn this down a little bit as well. And what happens is if you combine enough of these sine waves together in different amplitudes, which is volume, and frequency, which is pitch, it will come together to create just about every sound that you can possibly imagine. And you use these to build up complex waveforms. And so let's just convert this to audio, and we'll zoom in, and you can see that we have a sine wave. All right. We're going to set up a few audio tracks here, and then we're going to have some fun. Now, oftentimes this is done with, hundreds of sine waves, and so this is going to be a very basic example here that we're going to get into. But we're just going to copy and paste this sine wave to a few different tracks here. And then we're going to call this our original. And then we'll call this sine 2, sine 3, sine 4, and sine 5. All right. Again, this is going to be very, very basic, but we're going to leave the original alone just as it is. And then we are going to manipulate the other sine waves in various ways with volume and pitch. So we're going to come in here, and we're going to bring in our pitch shifter here. And we're going to go ahead and shift this up to a fifth, which is changing the frequency. So if we were to just play these two together, it's starting to sound like a chord. We're going to turn them both down a little bit, but we're actually going to turn this one down even more. And then when we play it, we've got a different sort of sound going on. Bring our shifter to the next one. And we'll have maybe this one go up a third. a major third. And we'll bring down the volume of that major third even more. And then we will bring in our next one. And we'll actually have this one come in on a second, and we'll turn this one down quite a bit. And maybe have this one be like a sixth or something. Now, we've played with the pitch and the volume, and now it's starting to kind of sound a little bit like an organ now, right? Now we can also play with some phase, and phase is just the relationships between the waves. So what we can do is start moving some of these a little bit off the grid so that they're not exactly lined up with each other. And we can play with some of the volume here. And when we start combining these together, we're getting a different waveform altogether. So if we were to take this and convert this to its own track, you'll see that it no longer is a sine wave, but it actually has some different characteristics to it. So we are creating a new sine wave, right? Now, if we were to add some distortion or various things, it starts to become, we're adding harmonics, we're adding some things like harmonics are just pitches or different frequencies that you can add into the thing. But we're creating a new waveform using a bunch of sine waves stacked together. Now, like I said, to get very complex sounds, you're usually doing this with hundreds, and you're actually going to probably be doing them with different pitches than these perfect things. So like it would oftentimes be like micro pitches. So let's say we take this sound shift for, instead of having this be perfect fifth, let's just have it be a little off. Let's have this be a little off. I'm just kind of randomly picking some stuff. Mathematically, this should follow like more formulaic things. Like, so if our original pitch was at, say, 100 hertz, which it's not, but let's say it was, our original is at 100 hertz, then we want to add in, say, the next pitch at 200 hertz, the next pitch at, say, 300 hertz, 400 hertz, 500 hertz, etc., and start building up these complex waveforms. We're not exactly doing that to mathematic perfection, we'll say, and so this is not going to give like a perfect, true example of what's going on here, but I do want to at least show you sort of how this kind of thing starts to work to a degree, at least, when we start combining these in with together. And now when we add that in with our original here, if we take that out and put that in, it becomes more and more kind of distorted and harmonically rich. So we're creating even a new sound. And if we were to take what we've just done here and make that its own track, and then we zoom in, we're getting even more kind of complex things going on, and you can see that there's the waveform is changing. It's different. It's not the same. And so additive synthesis is just creating a complex waveform using nothing but sine waves. And generally speaking, you're going to be using like mathematic equations in order to like really specify how this is. But you can create anything from, you know, an organ to like an electric guitar if you stack enough of these together. You know, like we're talking like hundreds of these sine waves, maybe up to 1,000 or so. Like, but a lot of sine waves stacked upon each other will eventually come together to create just about any waveform that you could possibly imagine, whether that's a piano, a guitar, or whatever. And it's the harmonics and the pitch, the pitches of the harmonics, how they relate to each other mathematically and all that, that gives the sound its timbre, if you will, right? And so there are there's software out there that does this kind of thing specifically for additive synthesis. One of them is Razor by Native Instruments. And so I'm just going to bring up a quick instance of it so that you can kind of see what it looks like. All right, so this is the Razor by Native Instruments. And this is an additive synth. And what it's doing is kind of under the hood, it's already taking a bunch of sine waves and creating some complex waveforms, and then you can use this control panel here, this interface, in order to sort of create or like to change them and make them a little bit more interesting, mess with them as a synthesizer, like a normal synthesizer, right? We have our envelopes down here. We have you know, filter sections and things like that that can all kind of come together to sort of help build this, build the sounds. And so, you know, if we were to see what that sound looked like, and I'm not sure if we can zoom in, but you can see this would be the fundamental pitch, and then each of those would be the harmonics that it's generating mathematically. And you can use these different things here to as you can see, and when you can use all of these different buttons and knobs to mess with this sound and make it, you know, different. We can use different waveforms here. So, like, these would be the waveforms that it would be creating with the synthesis. And so this is kind of some of the sounds that, I mean, technically additive synthesis can create any sound, but this Razor kind of, and like I said, I don't fully understand all of additive synthesis. I don't understand all the mathematics that goes into it and and all the complexity. But this is essentially what it's doing, is it's just taking a bunch of sine waves to create a complex waveform, and then that's kind of being done under the hood here with this particular plugin. And, you can go through some of these presets to see what kind of sounds that it's come up with, and then you can tweak these sounds. This is like more of a patty sort of sound. And you can start to play with things and kind of create some fun effects, right? And you can use this interface to do that and shape the sound, so to speak, to get it to kind of do what you'd like it to do. And then, if you wanted to, you could use that complex waveform that you've created with, combining these different sine waves together and their different frequencies and amplitudes, pitch and volume. And you can then go through the either like a frequency modulation or a subtractive synthesis or various things like that. And but anyways, there are different types of synthesizers that will focus on additive synthesizer, like this Razor from Native Instruments. Even a Hammond B3 is kind of an example of an additive synthesizer, so to speak. It's an organ, but you can sort of control the kind of sound of the organ by adding in harmonics and things like that with its sliders and things like that, and just kind of create some interesting sounds. And so that's kind of how the process of additive synthesis works. It's literally combining in mathematical ways different sine waves together. And so, and then you can take that complex waveform and, and shape it and play with it and do different things with it. But that's it in a nutshell. I hope that this has been helpful. Like I said, if you want more information, or if you're a math whiz and you want to get into the actual specifics behind additive synthesis, it's a very fun, creative tool that you can get into and use to create some very interesting sounds and have fun with. But this is more just to give a very basic kind of concept of what additive synthesis is, so that you can start to apply this sort of thing in your own productions, if that's something you want to do. And like I said, they're using different complex waveforms that they've kind of put together here, and different filters and different things in order to get the sort of sounds, and then you can add in the different effects and stuff like that. And so, yeah, you can dig into this and have a lot of fun with it. Yeah. So you can dig into this if you are interested in additive synthesis. It's not something that I tend to use a lot of just because I prefer to start with a sound or create a sound and then take away the complexity. That tends to be a little bit easier for me. But if you are so inclined, you can jump into this kind of process and really, come up with some just absolutely incredible sounds. And like I said, you can start with presets with any of these things like we talked in our last video, and then just, fine tune it from there to change it to get it to what you want it to be. But you can have a lot of fun with these types of synthesizers using additive synthesis. For more information, I highly recommend you look up additive synthesis in a Google search, and you'll find probably more information than you would know what to do with. There's a lot out there. A lot of it is very mathy, but if you're so inclined, you can dig into this more and find out exactly what some of these mathematical relationships are and how to go about generating these complex waveforms using nothing more than sine waves. For me personally, I prefer to have that kind of stuff done for me already, and then I can take that sound and manipulate it to my own sort of preferences. So anyways, that's all we're going to cover for additive synthesis. If for more information, like I said, there's lots of information out there. Feel free to dig into it. But this is where I'm going to leave off for today. Hopefully you have a better understanding, at least of the basics of what additive synthesis is, how it works under the hood, so to speak, and how you can kind of use these concepts in order to build your own complex waveforms and create your own kind of sounds from it. And with that, we're going to leave off, and I hope you have a wonderful day, a wonderful week, and I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.